invited this energized man to Action Callers because I know how much this information can aid with this disorder that I often refer to as the elusive pretender. Elusive pretender in that it sometimes looks like depression and sometimes looks like obsessive compulsive disorder and sometimes looks like can't read, and so it looks like a lot of things. And so you need to get to a doctor that really knows attention deficit disorder. And not all psychiatrists, not all medical doctors are even knowledgeable about this subject at this time. So we have a great pleasure, and I'm delighted to have Dr. Clopton here with us today. And if you want to talk to Dr. Clopton and to me, you can call us again at 916 456 5199. You might even want to get a pencil or a pen and paper together in case there are other numbers that'll be important for you to want to get hold of. So, Dr. Clopton, will you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you began to specialize in this area?
I grew up in Southern California, was always interested in science and always wanted to be a doctor. I thought for a long period of time what I really wanted to do was be an orthopedic surgeon. And so I went off to, to college with a desire to major in biochemistry with a future career in medicine. That somewhat got changed while I was there. Decided that maybe medicine wasn't really what I wanted to do, but I still like science. And so I went off to graduate school and received a PhD in neuropharmacology. While I was there, became more and more interested in medicine and decided I really did want to go into medical school, but also wanted to utilize my research background. Staying in the area of neuroscience, I thought that a good choice would either be neurosurgery or neurology. And neurosurgery was an 8-year residency, so I wasn't about to do that. And neurology was somewhat frustrating in that in many cases you could tell somebody what was wrong, but there were limited things that you could do. I felt somewhat stuck. However, this was also the beginning of the
What do you
real
do when you get stuck?
call somebody.
Who do you call? Yeah.
Hopefully call a doctor or a friend.
Uh huh. Good.
But this was kind of the beginning of biological psychiatry. And the more I looked into it, the more exciting it got. So I decided to do a residency in psychiatry at UCLA. While I was doing that, I kept hearing from patients over and over again who were getting better that, gosh, I wish I'd have done this 20 years ago. And as I looked at patients more and more often, I could see oftentimes the seeds of the problem going back to childhood and adolescence. And so I felt that many times by just seeing adults, I was going a little bit too late in life. And from that point, I decided to do a fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry at the University of Colorado to hopefully begin to deal with problems at the beginning. Then moved to Northern California. I'm the director of the Adolescent Partial Program at Heritage Oaks, and have been in private practice for the last 5 years and mostly specialize in doing medication.
Mm-hmm. So, neurology, I guess this is a field that keeps you pretty busy learning the newest thing, because isn't kind of stuff with the brain, and doesn't ADD have a little bit to do with the brain?
Yes, it does.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Psychiatry in general, I think, lags far behind most of the other disciplines in medicine, so it's something we really need to keep up with a lot. One of the difficulties when you look at the brain has been our diminished ability to really look at an active brain. We can look at, do animal studies or other types of things, but looking at the active brain has been difficult. What has changed things dramatically over the past few years have been the utilization of two new brain scans, one called a PET scan, the other called a SPECT scan, which has for the first time allowed us to actually look at ongoing brain activity. And both those scans have been very helpful in validating the existence of attention deficit disorder. So it's not just a set of symptoms, it actually is a medical problem.
So you're saying that some of the doctors who say there is no such thing as ADD were wrong?
They're very wrong. And especially when you're looking at ADD in adults. Early in the, even in the early 1990s, the idea was there was no such thing as attention deficit disorder
Yeah.
in adults. The major problem was we were focusing on hyperactivity. and everybody grows out of hyperactivity. So the assumption was that when the hyperactivity was gone, that the ADD was gone, and clearly that's
Oh,
incorrect.
is that how they got to that point?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Although I do see some adults in my practice, even as adults, who are pretty hyperactive still.
Yes, they are,
I mean, they're kind of noticeable.
and they can still run into problems with their impulsivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely. So, what else do you want to kind of let us know about that's real important that you think? Does ADD start in childhood?
it really does start in childhood, and I think the most concerning thing about ADD is what it also develops into. That when you look at ADD, you can kind of go down two different tracks. For those who, um, you know, may not be, the brightest of individuals, or, maybe come from families where, academics is not the road to great success. A very high incidence of conduct disorder, substance abuse, antisocial personality disorder, depending upon the study you read. 25 to 50% of those in the prison system have undiagnosed ADD. On the other hand, if you look at individuals who are relatively bright, and especially those who come from families where academics is important, there's a very high incidence of depression if the ADD is not diagnosed. So not
Because they
only
kind of feel kind of bad about themselves, and
it,
everybody's
right,
pushing on them to do more
right.
and more and more, and
It's
they
the
know you're
right.
smart. Why don't you do more?
Right, and for instance, I treat an orthopedic surgeon who has ADD, a plastic surgeon, about a half a dozen lawyers, teachers. Very, very bright people can have ADD. The problem is they struggle greatly to get things accomplished, and it does cause tremendous dysfunction within the home because it looks like people aren't motivated, they're not trying enough, they're impulsive, or they're hyperactive, and creates a lot of problems in the home.
Hmm. So, what are some of the things that you see in the home with the adult who's ADD, with maybe their wife
Yeah.
or their
Yeah.
husband?
Well, one of the real difficulties with ADD is these are problems with focusing, concentrating, paying attention. So the general assumption would be that you should have problems with those things no matter what you do, which is actually untrue. The brain actually has two different ways that it can focus, concentrate, pay attention. So that if it's something you're very interested in doing, find to be motivating, the brain uses a reward system that actively focuses on what you're trying to do. And that's
What do
just,
you mean by a reward system?
it appears that um, there's an increase in dopamine, which is one of the chemicals in the brain that's kind of seen as sometimes a pleasure neurotransmitter. And so it's more of a system that kind of zones in or hyper focuses on what you're trying to do. That system is not affected in those who have ADD. The problem is much of life, schoolwork, sometimes things around the house are mundane and routine. And the way the brain pays attention,
Sometimes.
many times, and the way the brain pays attention in those situations is not by focusing on what you're trying to do, but by preventing you from being distracted by other things. And that's a system that's affected. So the way this can play out in a home setting, the way I oftentimes see it, is people who will come in with marital problems. And one of the spouses will say, he or she never forgets the fishing trip, the baseball game, any of these types of things that they enjoy, but they can't remember to pick stuff up for me at the store or do things around the house. They forget about a dinner date we had. And so what they're saying is that that other thing is obviously more important than I am. They're
And
just
then they
not
feel
paying
bad.
attention.
Then the partner feels like they're not
Right.
loved and they're not
Right.
cared about. And
And it also causes great frustration because the person with the ADD doesn't recognize they have ADD, is very frustrated with themselves that this is happening. It oftentimes leads to depression. So you can see a significant amount of marital discord. If you have a parent with ADD, it's going to affect their ability to be consistent as a parent, follow through with things with their children. So it's a problem that just gets worse and worse.
yeah, so the impulsivity, and they might have an anger problem that goes along with it
Yeah,
also.
very much so. People with ADD oftentimes say things without thinking about it. A good example would be it's 9 o'clock at night and you're sitting on the couch and watching TV, and your spouse says, by the way, could you take out the trash? Well, for most of us, that first thought that enters into our head is, no, I would definitely will not do that, and maybe a little bit more intense. But most of us
You don't say
stop.
it.
Right. The problem is the ADD patient says it.
Hmm.
And oftentimes as an adult, we say the wrong things, or oftentimes in children and adolescents, you say you need to go clean your room, and the first thing that comes out is this impulsive no. And what I oftentimes see is that once no comes out, then
They,
kids or adolescents have to defend it. And
so they got to stick with it and even become
right.
more obstinate.
Right, and this leads to problems in the school. If you're being impulsive, means that you're, really not developing the problem-solving skills, coping skills, communication skills that you need to develop. So oftentimes, if ADD is not diagnosed and treated early, that even if you do diagnose it later, you have an individual that oftentimes needs a significant amount of therapy to catch up with the skills that they haven't learned.
Yeah, speaking of skills, I've met and have worked with in my practice people who are called coaches and who are working with clients on the day-to-day kind of activities that that person has to go through, whether it's at work or at home.
Yes.
What do you think about the coaching
I,
field?
I think it's a great idea. And actually, the later the diagnosis is made, I think the more important the coach becomes, because there are more and more things that need to be done. If you look at things just from maybe a school aspect, um, individuals with ADD can have problems organizing a book report. You give them medication, and now neurochemically they can organize, but they may not have the skills necessary.
Yeah, they haven't learned that you have to do that
Exactly.
every day, and you
Exactly.
have to keep it up, and all
Or
those kinds of
things
things.
around the house, things of business. So much of life in our hectic society necessitates us being organized. And oftentimes there can be a real reliance on medication, and people do better. But the older you are, I think the more important it is to have that coach who can kind of come alongside and say, this is how you may want to do this, and really can do the follow-up with you.
Yeah, I've heard about some of the coaches call you on the phone, or you call them every morning or every other day, and you tell them what you're planning to do in the next couple of hours, and then you call them back at noon, and you report back what you have done, and then if you haven't gotten it done, you take a look at why you haven't done it, and then put it on your list of things to do. One of the other things that I think has been funny is finding out that a lot of ADD people hate to make lists or to put it on a list. And if they put it on a list, they forget to look at the list. Have you found that in your practice?
I really have, and sometimes what you need to do is sometimes simplify life. And what I tell patients is that always put your keys in the same place. For students, always put your book bag in the same place. It only goes one place.
How about
it doesn't go
homework?
anywhere else. And again, the homework is just that aspect of organization. You have to organize and discipline yourself, that when homework is done, you need to put it in your backpack. It doesn't go anywhere else. You don't get up, you put it in, so it can only be in one place.
Well, let me just say right now, if you're starting to notice that you may have some of these symptoms, or somebody that you love and care about a lot has some of these ways of being in the world, give us a call, and maybe we can coach you to coach the person, or if you are the person, we can do a little coaching with you now. So call us at 916-456-5199. 456-5199. We do look forward to hearing from you. So what else comes up for you right now, Dr. Clopton?
Well, I think one of the things that comes up again in my area of being more focused on medication is parents who will say, yes, I understand my child has ADD, or even adults who will say that, but have great concerns about the medication.
Yeah, not me, no medications, right?
And I fully realize that I'm not talking about prescribing 10 days worth of penicillin, that these are oftentimes very long-term medications. And most of the concern is the addictive potential of the medications. These are amphetamines or related to amphetamines. Will I become addicted? And I probably treat about 600 patients with ADD, and I probably only had 2 that I felt developed an addiction to the medication. One of the things that I tell parents is that one of the major problems we run into with these medications is people forget their doses. Addicts don't forget doses. I've never seen a kid who got mood elevated, with the medication. People don't feel like they're on the medication. And sometimes, the major thing is trying to allay individuals' fears. There are huge numbers of studies looking at the long-term effects of these medications in developing children. And other than some effects on growth, which we've eliminated, nobody's found a long-term problem, whereas clearly there are long-term problems associated with either not making the diagnosis or not utilizing medication.
Yeah, I'd like to, after our break, maybe talk a little bit more about the medications, how the person feels, and what are some of the, problems that the child might have taking it, or the adult has taking it. And so we'll be having a break in a few minutes, and you can call us at 916-456-5199 and get some answers and ask some questions, and maybe you've wanted to do something about this, or maybe you know a lot about it, but you would like to get something started in your child's school. Maybe you want to make a difference at a national level. There is a national organization called CHADD, CHADD, and you can look it up on the internet. Just go to search, and you can get more information than you ever wanted to have. And some of it's going to be accurate, some of it's not, but most of it that I found seemed pretty good. So we'll be back in just a few minutes, and look forward to hearing from you.
Community Radio for Sacramento, The Voice.
Hello, Dave Carr for Radio DX to tell you about this show, which airs live Mondays 6 to 8 in the evenings and a replay Tuesday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m. here on KYDS 91.5 and Cable FM 88.7, the voice of Sacramento. So join me for music and Lord knows what else. And check out the website, www.w3dj.com/radiodx. Check it out, would you?
This is a story about American heroes. They changed quite a few lives last year. Jorge Vasquez put out fires, but no, he's not a firefighter. Philip Dale discovered several new stars. Oh, he's not an astronomer. And Elaine Capobianco, she saved a child from drowning, but she's not a lifeguard. They're teachers, but to the kids they've reached, they're heroes.
I'm a teacher. The children are the heroes.
We're not just teaching subject matter, we're teaching human beings.
I am tough as nails, but they know that I love them.
I mean, we've got a legacy that follows behind us forever.
Teachers have the power to make an impact on our future. California will need about 250,000 more of them in the next 10 years. Reach for that power. Teach. Call 1-888-CAL-TEACH now. A public service message brought to you by CalTeach, the Ad Council, and this station.
The Voice and Access Sacramento are helping to make a difference. Just ask Charmy Silva of Weave.
Weave is an agency in Sacramento. It stands for Women Escaping a Violent Environment. Our agency's been around about 20 years. Mainly, we're an agency that offers counseling for victims of domestic violence or dating violence. We offer counseling for male perpetrators of domestic violence, and we also offer counseling for victims of sexual assault. I am creating a video for sexual assault awareness that I will be using in the classroom. I go out into many high schools throughout Sacramento, and I've been able to create the project by taking classes at Access to learn how to use the camera and do the editing, so I'm able to do everything myself.
Charmy Silva is one of many Access members who've learned to help make a difference in our community. Get involved by becoming a member of Access Sacramento. Call us at 456-8600. Access Sacramento, making a difference, one voice at a time.
This is The Voice.
Well, welcome back to Action Callers, and I'm Reva Camiel, and I'm a psychotherapist in Sacramento, and I have with me today Dr. Kirk Clopton, who is a medical doctor, psychiatrist, who specializes in attention deficit disorder, both in young people and in adults. And he's giving us some great information today, and we're kind of having fun sharing some of the things that we've learned about ADD over the years. And so we're back with Eric. No, Kirk. Dr. Clopton. Go for it.
Yeah, I think one of the important things to really focus in on ADD is actually the use of medication. With the confirmation with the PET and the SPECT scans, we have demonstrated that this really is a biological problem, and it really is a medical problem like high blood pressure, diabetes. Those disorders are often treated with medication, and the best way to treat attention deficit disorder is also with medication. What has technically been identified with ADD is a diminished activity of a part of the brain called the premotor cortex. There are two chemicals or neurotransmitters, which are fancy terms for chemicals that relay messages, that should be in high concentrations or high activities in that area. One is called norepinephrine, the other is called dopamine.
Don't get scared away by those big words.
And their levels or activities are substantially lower than they should be. So basically what all the medications do is that they increase the amounts of those chemicals. I think oftentimes we look at ADD and see these hyperactive individuals. We kind of wonder why we would give a stimulant to someone who's hyperactive.
That's what I wondered for years and years, and finally I got the answer since the SPECT scans have come out, and that's so great.
Right. And what we're looking at is the hyperactivity is due to the fact that not that the brain is too active, but an inhibitory part of the brain is not active enough, and we're stimulating basically a no signal within the brain, and that's how we give, in a sense, stimulant medication to those who are hyperactive or have ADD without hyperactivity.
Well, I heard something about that, and I'm wondering if it's accurate, that if you give a hyperactive person an upper, that person, what it does is stimulate the brain, and if they don't have that, their brain is not working as fast, and they don't feel normal, and they don't feel good about themselves. So then they start going around and kicking people and climbing up walls and making everybody crazy, like they like the stimulation of being yelled at and getting attention and having crises happen in their life. Is that
It's true, and sometimes it helps them. Sometimes the more chaotic things are, the better they do. I remember the commercial that was on about 10 years ago advertising coffee that I always thought was very unusual. It said, coffee, it wakes you up, it calms you down, and it never made sense to me.
Well, I never saw that one.
I just rationalized it. If it wakes you up, you probably don't have ADD. If it calms you down, you probably do. So, yeah.
I often think I have ADD. However, the medications, I did try one of them, Adderall, and as a younger woman, I took diet pills and uppers, amphetamines, and what I noticed was it just like amped me.
Right, and sometimes I do like Adderall a lot. But it can be a bit stimulating.
Oh, is it?
So, sometimes if people feel a bit too stimulated on the Adderall, then go into something that might be less activating, like a Ritalin, or even an antidepressant called Wellbutrin, can oftentimes be very good choices. So, if we really feel that somebody has a disorder, it's not a situation where one medication fits all, and sometimes we have to look at different medication options.
Yeah, because that for sure didn't work. But the amphetamines, when I was trying to lose weight years ago, some hippies talked me out of using it. I was leading a group for drug addicts in Hollywood, and somehow I mentioned that I was taking amphetamines, and they said, "You're taking a drug. You better get off of it. It's very dangerous. Stop it." And they yelled at me. I don't know if I was the only one who got off drugs. But I stopped and didn't take them anymore because I did feel amped. I felt just like I was...
Right.
I guess amped is the best word to say on the radio. I don't know how to describe it in any other way.
And again, with these medications, the side effects of too high a dose can either be, kind of too revved up like you've had a pot of coffee, or what we more oftentimes see on things like 2020 or in Time magazine the individual who looks like a zombie. And that's where a lot of the kind of negative publicity with these medications comes. And those types of things more often occur in hyperactive individuals who may or may not have attention deficit disorder. And the unfortunate thing is that people are using medication more targeted to deal with somebody's behavior rather than their focusing, concentration, attention. And those are oftentimes situations where you end up using very high doses to produce a behavioral effect, and then you end up turning the person really into a zombie. The treatment has to be twofold. One is you have to decrease what would be perceived as negative symptoms, but on the other hand, you have to produce positives also. And if you're not doing both, then we need to do something different.
Yeah, so after our really quick break that's coming up right now, I'd like to talk about, the hyperactivity and those with ADD with hyperactivity and those who don't have hyperactivity and the low diagnosis of those without the hyperactivity. So we'll be back in just 10 seconds, and just take it easy, and we'll be right back with you with your questions, and you can call us at 916-456-5199. We look forward to hearing from you.
The Voice is 88.7 cable FM and KYDS 91.5 FM Sacramento.
Okay, here we are back from the station identification. So let's talk about maybe the ADD with hyperactivity and ADD without hyperactivity. I think you alluded to it earlier, but maybe a little bit more.
The ADD with hyperactivity is typically very noticeable. I mean, people notice that the individual is hyperactive. They have difficulty sitting still. They fidget a lot. They have difficulty sitting still at the dinner table, sustaining attention on a task. They're very impulsive, very, very active. But unfortunately, many individuals out there have made hyperactivity synonymous with ADD, which I think then oftentimes leads to the overdiagnosis of ADD. Hyperactivity can occur in a number of different areas that have nothing to do with attention deficit disorder.
Like what, for example?
A chaotic home. Hyperactivity is also relative. If you have two kind of very quiet, sedate, relaxed parents and you have an active child, that active child may be normal compared to everyone else, but compared to their parents may be seen as very hyperactive.
Or to their siblings that they might have kind of blah siblings.
Right. Because there are a lot of differences in children. You can also have hyperactivity in post-traumatic stress disorder, children with just impulse control disorder. A lot of types of things can produce it, totally unrelated to attention deficit disorder.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so what would a person without hyperactivity look like, or how would we happen to notice that they're ADD?
The attention deficit disorder without hyperactivity is the group that's way underdiagnosed. And those are the ones that are oftentimes seen by psychiatrists because they're oftentimes brought in for something else. The ADD without hyperactivity really begins to start showing up about 3rd and 4th grade, which is where school kind of changes from fun to work. Kids have to start doing time tasks. They have a start and completion. And it's also where they typically start doing multiplication tables. And because of the problem with concentration, which then relates to problems with memorization, most ADD patients have lots of difficulty memorizing times tables. When they do kind of time tasks in the classroom,
and they might be good in math.
Sometimes they are. If it's something they enjoy doing,
but
they might be good. They have a tendency to do okay on maybe the first 10 problems, but then they get distracted and they have difficulty finishing.
Lose attention to it. It's not interesting anymore. They know how to do it.
Right. And so, another thing that you can look at is sometimes the noisier things are, the more difficult they do. They sometimes demand absolute quiet when they're doing their homework. They start things relatively well, but forget things, or don't, go to completion. You can ask them to go to the room to get 3 things. They come back with 1 on a consistent basis. So that's usually, the types of things that you see in the beginning. As kids get older, we have major problems associated with reading. Because again, neurologically, if we can't concentrate, that information doesn't get into memory. So kids with ADD, adolescents, adults with ADD can talk about reading a chapter in a book and being unable to answer the questions at the end of the chapter. Or they can't remember enough about chapter 1 to really be able to pick up with chapter 2 2 days later. They have difficulty with the test. And then oftentimes that leads to the oppositional behavior, refusal to do schoolwork. And that's when oftentimes I see them, is more of a diagnosis of opposition defiant disorder, but the underlying part is undiagnosed ADD.
Yeah, the ones I remember when I used to teach another lifetime ago were these usually these little girls who were sweet little girls, and they sat very quietly in their seats, and they'd look out the window and they'd notice the squirrel coming down the tree, and then they'd notice the tree, and then they'd notice the cars in the driveway, and meanwhile they weren't hearing what was going on in the classroom.
Because really in the classroom, again, most things are mundane and routine. And the way the brain is supposed to help you pay attention is not so much by focusing on the teacher, but by preventing you from being distracted by other things. So if the brain doesn't do that, then it's actually trying to pay attention to the teacher, the clock on the wall, the bird outside, the person sitting next to you all at the same time, and it absolutely cannot do that.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about how that might show up. I've had a few clients that have it's shown up at their work as adults. They're even in high positions, and they're starting to get bad reports and evaluations, and so they're getting ready to be fired. And maybe you can talk about a little bit about how it shows up at work, and how maybe a boss or a supervisor might be able to notice a person is ADD.
Right. And again, like I said, it's important to understand that many ADD patients are very, very bright. But what you're looking at is they have real difficulty completing mundane routine tasks. They can do very well if it's something they're motivated to do, but have difficulty with mundane routine tasks. They may try to isolate themselves because when phones are ringing, people are talking. They tend to have great difficulty staying on task, getting things done.
They listen to all the conversations.
Yes, they do. And then they kind of forget about what they're trying to do. They sometimes have difficulty with attention to detail, and it really doesn't match who that person is. And they typically have a great level of frustration associated with all of that.
Yeah, I had one very brilliant young woman I was working with, and she both had an anger problem and ADD. But in the ADD part, she was a saleswoman, outstanding, the top saleswoman in her company. She did great work in selling, but she didn't hand in on a monthly basis her reports, her mileage reports. So the company already was owing her like $1,200, and they were getting very upset about not getting, they wouldn't give her money without the reports. And she, for some reason, just couldn't sit down and write her reports. And they fired her, even though she was bringing in so many customers and doing such a great job in that way.
And that oftentimes shows up in ADD patients is that things that you would say would be important for the person to do. Doctors doing billing. That's how you get money. I've had physicians who absolutely could not do the paperwork to get done. So, these are not things that they're trying to actively avoid. These are things they want to do.
They want the money, but they don't. But they don't want to do the task.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I've also seen is ADD patients who, in a sense, don't know they have ADD, but have learned to compensate. Patients who have hired a brilliant secretary or somebody to work with them that does all the organizational stuff, and then they go out and do all the selling and those types of things, but they're dependent upon that one person. And I've had a number of them who have switched jobs or lost that person, and their level of functioning just plummeted. And then the diagnosis of ADD came later.
There's some rumors, I don't know that this is true, but people like Einstein and some of the great mathematicians, and perhaps Gates and Jobs from the computer world, and maybe Spielberg, people who are very creative and get a lot done, do have good staff and somehow got organized enough to get good people working for them, is my guess.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would agree, and I would say some of the most creative people I know are individuals with ADD. So there may be a positive associated with a negative. The problem is without the treatment or hiring a second brain, so to speak, you can have all the ideas in the world. You just can't put them forward and organize them well enough to get them done.
Yeah. So I have a friend who is an artist, and she was having a very hard time. And then I talked to one of the, and so she got a coach, which improved her productivity and her ability to both do the marketing of her work and do the work. She could only do kind of one at a time, and she preferred doing the work but not the marketing. And I talked with a person who runs an art studio, and when we were talking about ADD, he says, "Oh, is that what's with all my artists? None of them will bring their work in on time. Nobody writes their things up, for me to put under their pictures." And he went on and on about, wow, I think a lot of these artists are ADD.
Yeah, a lot of them are very creative.
Yeah. So, we have to find ways to cope and find support in the kinds of things that we can't do. I mean, this is a good thing, because some people can't do a whole lot and they just do what they do and maybe they're not ADD. So we're going to stop for another break and we'll be back in just a few minutes. And you can call us at 916-456-5199.
Sacramento's Community Radio, The Voice.
Listen to America Today on The Voice every Wednesday evenings from 8 to 10. Is the UN good for Americans? What's behind free trade? Where is our culture going? And are we a free people? And what is freedom? Where is America headed? We'll answer these questions from a different perspective. So open your mind and listen to America Today, Wednesday evenings 8 to 10 on The Voice.
Vincent Watson, are you listening? This is Dorothy Franklin, and you mentor my son, Corey. He says you help him with questions he has. But ever since you came into his life, things haven't been the same. His grades have gone up. He seems happier. You've made a difference in my son's life, Vincent. To him, you are a mentor. To me, you are a saint.
Do good. Call 1-877-BE-A-MENTOR.
Message brought to you by Save the Children U.S. and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Malik Yoba, and I play a cop on TV. When I was in high school, I got shot at point-blank range by another kid. My life almost ended.
Each day, 10 kids are shot dead. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT for information on what you can do to help. Not one more lost life. Not one more grieving family. Not one more.
Getting shot changed my life. Don't wait for something to happen to you to take action. Get involved now. Not everyone gets a second chance.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, the Crime Prevention Coalition, and the Ad Council.
It began in 1986. In 1988, Access Sacramento brought you round-the-clock community radio. In 1997, Sacramento's voice is heard worldwide on the Internet. In May of 1998, Access Sacramento expands the community voice again. Stay tuned as we usher in a new era in Sacramento radio. Access Sacramento and The Voice, Sacramento's community cable radio, Internet, and something more. Now you can listen longer. Access Sacramento expands its worldwide Internet service. Point your web browser to www.sacramento.org. Access our real audio feed now from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday Pacific Coast time. Brought to you in part by Sacramento Network Access and the Access Sacramento Media Lab. For more information, call area code 916-456-8600. Internet radio from Access Sacramento, making a difference one voice at a time. Sacramento, The Voice is your radio station.
Welcome back to Action Callers, and you can call us at 916-456-5199. We'd really like to hear from you. And I'm Reva Camiel, psychotherapist in Sacramento, here with Dr. Kirk Clopton, who's out of El Dorado Hills, and I'll ask him to give you his phone number. And we're talking about attention deficit disorder in children and in adults. And the question I have for you right now, Doctor, is I found with many of my clients they haven't been able to get an appointment within, 2 months with a psychiatrist. What do you suggest, what's the problem, why they can't get these appointments, and are there enough doctors here in town that know very much about ADD?
One of the major problems is that oftentimes Sacramento becomes the testing ground for new things with HMOs. And because of some of the burdensome aspects of HMOs compared to other parts of the country, it's very difficult to attract psychiatrists to come here. So there's not really an influx of psychiatrists, whereas the community is getting larger and larger. And I think that's what creates the major problem in finding somebody who can do this. And really, the majority of the treatment is probably best handled by a child psychiatrist. They're the ones that have the best understanding of a child as well as adult ADD.
Oh, so an adult should even go to a child psychiatrist.
Sometimes. I mean, there are some adult psychiatrists who do a very, very good job, but the ones who really have to pay attention to the new things going on, the best treatments, the best combination treatments, tend to be child psychiatrists.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you, beside yourself and your offices in El Dorado Hills, you want to give your phone number in case anybody wants to give you a call, and maybe some names of others?
Sure.
Psychiatrists that also deal with it maybe in another part of the community.
My phone number is 939-ADHD or 939-9760. It's amazing to me that number was still available, but we did get it.
Give that second number again. I didn't hear it.
939-9760.
Okay, and the ADHD.
Right.
Okay, and who are some of the other psychiatrists around in town who are child psychiatrists or psychiatrists who are knowledgeable and good clinicians?
I think we're actually very fortunate in this area to have a number of psychiatrists who do a very good job. At Heritage Oaks, there's Dr. Hoffman and Dr. Hughes. At Sutter Hospital, there's Dr. Matani and Dr. Margolis. Dr. Diamond, who's at Sierra Vista, and then more of it in kind of an outpatient setting, Dr. Mancina, Dr. Nassatir, and I'm sure I left somebody off the list, but those are people I think do a very good job and can really help individuals out, whether they're children, adolescents, or adults.
Okay, thank you. And it looks like we have a caller, and it looks like maybe her name is Susan. So here comes Susan. Susan, you want to ask us your question? I can't hear. If she's talking, I can't hear her. I'm not hearing her. It's not coming through. Hello, Susan, are you there?
Yes.
Ah, I hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear her? Dr. Clopton can't hear her, but I'll repeat the question. What would you like to say, Susan?
Well, I have a son who probably has ADD.
Has a son who probably has ADD.
And he does have the symptoms that the doctor has been describing, and it is very difficult. And in the past, I tried.
Here, I'm going to put you on. Let me give him the earphone so he can hear you. Okay, right. Susan, would you just start with that last sentence?
Okay. Yes, Dr. Clopton.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, and yourself?
Good.
I have a son who does have a lot of the symptoms that you're describing, and I've been going round and round with him in his life. And in the past, we did try medicine, and to me, he exhibited allergic reactions as if he was a drug addict with not sleeping and not eating. Whereas my other son, who does have ADD also, when he takes the medicine, he gets sleepy and he gets focused. So I was wondering, Had I given up too soon on the youngest son with the medicine? Should I try to force the medicine?
It's not so much an aspect of forcing the medicine. It may be looking for different medications that may not have the same degree of those side effects. Among the stimulants, Ritalin, Dexedrine, and Adderall, Adderall probably has the least appetite suppressant effect.
That's a new one. I didn't try the Adderall.
Yeah,
We tried Silert
it's
and
been
the Ritalin and the Dexedrine.
Right, and Silert tends to only take care of half of the problem. It's a medicine that increases dopamine but has no effect on norepinephrine, so it may not take care of the conglomeration of symptoms. As far as a medication that's not a stimulant, that does not have any of those side effects, that medication would be Wellbutrin. The other thing is that I think we do need to focus on treating the ADD in our children, and sometimes that does produce some problems with appetite and sleep. And there are times where we would add a second medication to get rid of those symptoms, because clearly there are huge consequences associated on a long-term basis with not treating these disorders, especially as our society becomes more technical.
Well, I will tell you that it's a generational problem in my family. My father has it, I have it, and both of my children have it. And no one did anything that would be toxic to the children when they were in womb at any stage of this. And when I hear people being derogatory towards the medicine, they don't know what it's like to live with this.
No, they don't. And, it's one of the things that we're trying to deal with in psychiatry overall, is trying to help people understand that depression, obsessive-compulsive disorder, attention deficit disorder are medical problems. I mean, medicine doesn't stop at the neck.
Thank you. That is so true. Well, I thank you for your time. I'm not going to give up on the medicine.
Well, good for you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks very much, Susan, for giving us a call, and I hope that information you got was really helpful. And did something come up in your mind that you wanted to say any more about what Susan was talking about?
I just think people have to be persistent. And again, just because you failed one medication doesn't mean you should stop. If you have high blood pressure and one medication doesn't work, you don't stop. You try other medications.
There are other medications,
yes,
and
there
that's
are.
the great thing.
And
years ago, all it was Ritalin.
So it's important to stay persistent.
Yeah, I just wanted to, as we're beginning to get to the end of our time together today, maybe mention a little bit about CHAD and how that can help parents. And I think I have a phone number for them.
CHAD is a terrific organization, not only for parents with children with ADD or spouses with ADD, but adults with ADD also. It can give you the information necessary to find out what your rights are within a school system, to get your children the help that they need. It's great support. Oftentimes, it's, as our last caller talked about, if you don't have it, it's very hard to understand and sometimes very difficult to get the support.
Yeah, so when people go there to the meeting, they say, oh, I'm with people that understand me. Thank goodness.
And people have, for aspects of organization, you talked about being a coach. Parents or individuals who've dealt with this have come up with lots of different tricks that can be helpful, for yourself or for your children. And it's and they provide tremendous information. They have national meetings. It's a tremendous resource.
Great. Yeah, I've been to many of their meetings, and that's where I think I first heard you as one of those meetings. A telephone number for CHAD is 916-863-1390. And they have meetings throughout the year. In fact, they just had one last night over at Sutter Psychiatry. And there's usually anywhere from 20 to 50 to 60 people at one of those meetings. And I believe there's some kind of a conference coming up very soon that you might be interested in going to. And there's some national conferences that come to San Francisco or even here. There are speakers that come to Sacramento from other places who talk about many of the other things. So I just encourage you to call CHAD, call me if you want, call Dr. Clopton. You can reach me at 916-456-5199 and leave a message, and I'll be able to get to you within the next couple of days. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Clopton,
You're
for
welcome.
being here. It's been great. I know you're a very busy man. I know some of my clients have had trouble getting early appointments, so I know you're committed. It's not like you're coming here to hustle new clients. You've got plenty of them.
Yes, I do.
And so this is that kind of social service and volunteering that each of us can do in our own way. And if you can find one person that you can support, that could be great too. If you even let another parent who's suffering, or some adult that you know who is suffering from this, you let them know that you understand that they have something that really needs support. So at this time, I'd like to acknowledge our 3 volunteers that have so graciously and earnestly committed themselves to bring you this program. First is Steve Bailog, and he's a transportation professional who's learning to keep action callers on the airwaves, as well as Michael Geller, who is a workers' comp attorney in Sacramento, who is also learning how to plug us in and keep track of all the things we have to keep track of. So remember, your voice can be heard on this station, FM 91.5, by calling us, and I've given that number quite a few times. You can also look us up on www.sacramento.org on internet. And this is a state-of-the-art program where we will use every form of communication, written or spoken, to become seekers of solutions for the many problems that face our planet. Be part of the solution rather than being a part of the problem. We will use the messes in our life to get semi-well-ordered solutions. And again, thanks so much, Dr. Clopton, for your pioneering work in attention deficit disorder. And thank you all for your support to our community, planet Earth. Tune in next week, same time, same station, for getting ideas to make positive change in our community. And you can, as you know, call us at 916-456-5199, and you can reach me there. And and you want to give your number once again, Dr. Clopton?
Sure, it's area code 916-939-2343.
Okay. Well, again, I thank you all for listening, and I thank you, Susan, for calling. And I look forward to meeting the rest of you who are listening. And, call and let me know, even if you just want to let me know your name and what you're interested in. And we'll bring in speakers on that subject. So thanks a lot, and bye-bye for now.
For a different listening experience, 88.7 Cable FM and KYDS 91.5, the voice you need to hear.
Would you like to hear some nice music? Music that's positive, uplifting, and unique? Well, then tune in to The Haven, where you'll hear the best of inspirational music. The Haven, where the message is the music, and the music is the message.
That's The Haven with Kevin Matlock, Thursday evenings and Friday mornings from 6 until 8 on Sacramento's Voice.
With the balloon in a rubber dub style.
Greetings, music lovers. This is Jaw Bill, and I control the pounding system right here on The Voice, 91.5 FM. Tune in Thursday nights, 10 p.m. to midnight, for the best in reggae revived sound straight from Jamaica. Reggae sound system, the pounding system. Tune in and catch fire every Thursday on the station that ruled the nation.
It starts when we recycle trash at home and at work. It's completed when we buy products made from recycled materials. How do you know the difference? Check the label for something called post-consumer recycled content. Then buy the highest percentage of it you can find. You'll save a tree, you'll save energy, and in your own way, you'll help save the world. Complete the circle.
For your free Buy Recycled shopping guide, call 1-800-CALL-EDF, brought to you by the Ad Council and EDF, the Environmental Defense Fund.
Access Sacramento is helping to build a thriving arts community. Here's Terry Alk and members of the Live Oak Theater for Teens.
Access has been a place where we can broaden our access